Hey everyone, it's Mark from snowonly.com. Just wanted to come back. I feel like a newsreader. Just wanted to do a video today because we get a lot of people about luxury ski real estate, and I just want to give my background. I worked in Asia for a long time selling luxury real estate, well, actually we say luxury or expensive real estate, and I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in branded hotels for the last maybe 20 years or so. So I have a good understanding of what defines kind of luxury, and the ski industry for me is quite interesting in terms of what people's desires are, obviously ultimately what they can afford, and what people kind of are prepared to pay in price. So for me, it's a difference between defining luxury real estate over expensive real estate, and I think there are a few factors that obviously separate this, that push the boundaries of the price per square meter up to a point where the ultra high net worth individuals are prepared to pay, as long as the tick box. So when selling real estate, we always kind of have a tick box. I always have a kind of tick box in my head of maybe 10 things. Obviously, depending on budget, you might have to sacrifice some of those ticks in the boxes to find what you're looking for. But ultimately, if you have an unlimited budget, the idea is that you want to get 10 out of 10 on your tick box, and that would be the ideal property for you. So I just want to go through a bit of a presentation that I did today, and I think it might be quite interesting to provoke some discussion, to see what people think about it. So obviously love to hear everyone's comments below about what properties that they think define luxury, or how they've managed to sell luxury, or people that have bought luxury and for obviously what purpose. So the title obviously is what defines luxury ski real estate, the ultimate tick box. So first of all, for me, is location. We always hear location, 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 don't we? Within ski resorts, obviously land can be, especially for the flagship ski resorts, land can be somewhat scarce in access to the piste, or access to the chairlifts where people obviously want to be. Now, obviously, a lot of people's dreams in ski property is to have these defining factors. So the first on the tick box would be location. This, I think, kind of goes hand in hand with what people were asking me before about buying property in terms of appreciation. When I used to work in the ski industry many years ago, selling ski holidays, everyone, whether it's a family, an individual, couple, they all wanted ski and ski out just for pure convenience. So convenience, location obviously makes sense. But if we're talking about luxury, we're after prime, rare positions that ultimately is ski in, ski out. I don't think there would be, in my opinion, like real top high-end luxury if it wasn't ski in, ski out. You never hear people boasting about I've got a ground floor unit. Everyone obviously wants penthouse. So even within the developments, the location is important, obviously, to get the best unit. Sometimes gated communities, not always, because that's not always possible in ski resorts. Sometimes if you've got an individual property, a gated community might be possible to kind of give that exclusivity. And a historical district. I think history is more to do with like flagship resorts, in terms of the likes of, I don't know, Maribel, Courchevel, Val d'Isère, Tignes, if we're speaking about France specifically. If you're looking at Switzerland, obviously maybe Verbier, St. Moritz, places like that. Italy, I'm sure the same. So I don't want to go too far away from obviously what we're talking about with France, but for, I think, anyone's criteria, location is very important. It goes down to the individual, of course, and some families don't mind being that far away from the slopes. But then if they are that far away from the slopes, I think we can take away that it's just a lifestyle choice and not necessarily a luxury property. Let's say luxury purchase, it might be a luxury property, but in the greater world of luxury, I wouldn't put this in the bracket. So location is fundamentally important for me. Lifestyle. I think lifestyle is a bit like Marmite, isn't it? People absolutely love or hate the word lifestyle. But I think now with the evolution of ski properties, we have also an evolution of facilities. Wellness centres are very much on the forefront. Concierge service, high quality restaurants, security, all these kind of amenities that help people's lifestyle. So if you are buying into something, let's say a residence, then I think to get the real high end prices, or for buyers to buy into things that push the boundaries of the prices, it's going to have the amenities, the concierge, the wellness, the high quality restaurants, the security, and the service. I think anything less than that is not a necessity for everyone, of course. But in terms of absolute luxury, I think this is something that is a necessity. I'm looking forward for the arguments to come back that they say isn't the case, but I don't think there is a hotel in the world that I know that is branded that doesn't have these services, whether it's a ski property, a beach property, wherever it is. So for me, these things are essential when talking about luxury property. So that's second on the tick box. Quality is obviously important. I speak to a lot of people about not necessarily the quality, but the history of the developer. I think the developers' history in terms of showing things that they've done previously that give any buyer confidence is fundamentally important. So if you're a first-time developer, I think it would be very difficult to sell luxury property. There's a reason that the likes of Aman and LVMH have a huge array of hotels, etc., to sell, because they can always revert back to what they've built before. And I don't see any difference of this with ski property. If you look at the likes of, I don't know, MGM, Alpine Lodges, Rising Stone, to name a few, they all have a history of quality, which means they can always, whether they're building off-plan properties, can always refer a buyer back to something to say, this is our brand. And also, I think it's important that the quality of the developments that they've built previously help to establish what they're building going forward. From first-time developers, I think that would be quite difficult. I'm not saying, obviously, the individual real estate properties that there isn't quality, but it's hard to establish the actual quality of them if they don't have any history to refer back to. So you take it as it is. So I think quality and some history as a developer makes a lot of sense for people that are buying into luxury. Kind of the been there, done that, know what we're doing, have experience, and have confidence from that experience. So quality for me is a fundamental part. Scarcity. I think this is a really interesting one. Limited supply and high desirability, unique locations. I think with ski resorts in general, there is a limited supply depending on depending on which ski resorts it is. So I always use Maribel as a very good example, but it is probably one of the most renowned resorts in the world, with an abundance of people want to go there, and yet there are rare properties available. Now, if you take any resort like that, Courchevel or Maribel or Val d'Isère, as we kind of go back to it, if you find these unique opportunities in these unique locations, there is. And there are in every ski resort. There is a new development being built in Maribel, of which I can't say much about, but if you are interested, starts from around 7 million. But if you find these locations that are at the top of the resort, ski in, ski out, the most amazing view, and as we go through the tick boxes, there's a reason that these places are expensive, because they find that one piece of land, or they do a deal with one owner from years ago to buy the land that is so unique that everything that anyone ever imagined about buying a ski property near a ski resort is exactly where these places should be. So there are places like that around the Alps, but they're going to, because of obviously you take away from that location and from 50 meters to the chairlift, 100 meters, 200 meters, and so on and so forth, to the point you get, 5 kilometers from the chairlift. This doesn't obviously define the luxury. These are just properties, and some of these properties are just expensive. It doesn't mean they're luxurious, it just means they're expensive. So rarity, I'd say, scarcity, rarity in terms of these locations make these properties luxurious in terms of if we can get all the tick boxes, but this one needs to be one of them. Privacy and exclusivity. Now, this can be slightly different ways. So I would say privacy and exclusivity for developments is a little bit harder to get the privacy because of the land that's available. You get it from a lot of individual chalets where you could make it very private and very exclusive in these kind of like A1 streets that people want to be on. We hear it so many times from buyers saying they only want to buy it on the X because that's where the exclusive or people want an far away from everyone else that obviously privacy for people. Hard in developments because obviously your units in one location that will then couple kind of talk of the exclusivity. Privacy and exclusivity are definitely there when talking about luxury real estate and expensive real estate. What we're trying to define today for me is ski properties that are nice, but are they just or are they luxury, demand a higher price? We always talk about the square meter in particular resorts going up and up and up and up, but if you can get into these tick boxes of obviously all the things that we discussed today, I don't think there's a ceiling for these prices because the people with exceptional wealth have to have these tick boxes. Otherwise, it doesn't really work for them. Obviously, we're pushing the price per square meter 50-60% on what is the average resorts. It only kind of benefits there is a barometer of obviously what they can get running out, but if you can developments that tick all these boxes, then the price becomes a bit less relevant. The price becomes less relevant because it's just what people need and desire that obviously allows them to purchase. If you had a super high net worth individual and it was either any of the others, it was 150 meters from the chairlift, the construction quality wasn't particularly good, they wouldn't buy it. So we have to find something that obviously defines ticks all these boxes. Then the price can be kind of thrown up in the air, really, because it doesn't really matter so much, because that's not what they're buying it for. They're buying it for all the requirements of the property and not necessarily the price. Obviously, we don't go stupid high, but we have seen in Maribel recently there is a new development have just sold there for around 35 million euros, which has kind of pushed the price point so far out of what the average norm is. But you can understand it because everything that he or she would need is being offered. So yeah, so moving on from price exclusivity. Price, this is a chart from Savills from their report last year. It's just an image just to give you a guide on the price. But obviously price, even we get to the point where if we're talking about ultra luxury, you're not going to sell an ultra luxury product if it's not in the top 5-10% of the local market. Anything less than that, it's not really a luxury product. It's either just a product or just an expensive product, depending if it's in, let's say, the top 20%. So luxury is generally defined by the price. During my experience in working in Phuket, which I did for many years, if you look at Amanpuri, which is this beautiful headland, I use an example, but it is a very good example. And once you access, and is just surrounded by water. So there's your privacy and exclusivity. Service was obviously off the charts because it was Amman. And basically all the tick boxes that we inquired about today drove the price through the roof. And everyone wanted to be part of it. So they sold their second phase with probably in about 10 minutes. So price needs to be up there in terms of the top 5%, if not, I would even suggest, if it's launching a new development, setting brand new boundaries for what prices should be, because that is coupled with obviously the luxury segment. So price definitely up there. And the ultimate one for me, and this is something that I kind of wanted to get to, especially for the French Alps. In fact, a lot over the Alps. There are a few places, but if you compare it with someone like Japan, they have a lot of branded hotels, and a lot of brand hotels to come. But in the Alps, it's a little bit harder to find. The main players are the developers, the likes of MGM, Alpine Lodges, etc., that have a history of obviously being development, but they are not necessarily a hotel branded service. They might argue that to a little point, but if you couple it with, compare it with the likes of, obviously, as I said before, Ritz-Carlton, Amman, Rosewood, you know, all these kind of brands. This is, if you're going to spend 30 million euros on a property, for me, this is where you need to kind of be. Maybe the ski industry is slightly different, but the expectation from buyers buying into the ski industry at this price point have a history of having this service, so it needs to match their expectations. We have fortunately lots and lots of buyers that have come to us with budgets of 10, 15 million euros plus, but ultimately at the end of the day, they don't want to run the property themselves. They want to buy into a property that has the ultimate in service. So when they come to the property, it's almost run like a hotel, and a very high-end hotel. And I think, again, this is where we can obviously get to the point where the difference between an expensive property and a luxury property. It's not to say the expensive property, I don't really like that word, to be fair. I'm not saying the expensive properties are too expensive for what they are, because the market defines the price anyway. What I'm saying is that if we're trying to get the real luxury property, the service is of paramount importance over anything else. If you ask me, that is the final piece of the jigsaw to kind of tie everything together to be able to get the real luxury purchases. I think in ski resorts, the word luxury has kind of been passed around a little bit too much. So there are some good opportunities. There are some properties there that have a high price to them, but they are not luxury, if you ask me. I would say that they were good properties, and obviously it works for everyone in terms of their criteria, but where we're trying to define luxury, I think service is of paramount importance. And the other one is brands. So I can't name the brand, but there is a development in Maribel that has just been associated with a brand to do the management, and there is only 21 units in this development. But since they announced that they have this very, very high-end brand, they managed to then break the barrier by an exceptional amount for selling the property and how much it sold for. You wouldn't have been able to do that without the brand and the service. The brand then obviously offers the service of what we were talking about before, which then pushes the boundaries of what it's worth. if you took away that brand and service, I don't think you would get 50-60% of the money of that sold at. But when we're talking about the high net worth individuals, I think this is fundamentally important to getting there. There are obviously services that people provide as a concierge service, but to be associated with a brand is huge. And in the French Alps especially, there isn't that many branded properties. I would love to kind of hear from all the branded properties that are out there that maybe I've missed, but it's not easy to find branded properties. Everything is very much in-house. If you look at, as I said, MGM, it's branded for MGM, but they have a market for that. It's not a as I said, Aman, Rosewood, LVMH, etc. The one that I really am aware of is the W Residence in Verbier, an amazing location, but again, ticks all the boxes, and I'm sure they could obviously push the price if they're for the sales. But brands, the development in Maribel has really kind of pushed the price because it's associated to the brand. So we do have these properties available, but it's very rare. But it's good that it's rare, because otherwise it wouldn't be exclusive and then wouldn't achieve the price. If the branded residents were everywhere and it wasn't as exclusive, then they wouldn't be as expensive. So for anyone, I guess the pitch for me is here. If anyone is looking for a branded residence, obviously let us know, and we can introduce you to the developers that are running these branded residences, especially at the moment. But there's not that many available. So anything less than the branded residence is, for me, not necessarily luxury, but just a good product in the market. A little table I did here, which I can send to anyone that is potentially interested. You might not be able to see it, so let's make it a little bit bigger. This is what I did in terms of obviously luxury real estate versus expensive real estate. As I said, expensive, it's not a particularly good word to use maybe, in terms of, I just say real estate that's one level less than luxury. So if you look at location, best of the best, exclusive, rare, prestigious. This is for luxury real estate. I'll read it down. Design and architecture, bespoke design, iconic architecture, custom craftsmanship, amenities, ultra premium, spa, wine cellars, smart tech, galleries, helipad if possible, things like that. Experience, lifestyle driven, privacy, service and status enhancing, security, gated residence, private elevators, etc. Service level, concierge staff, tailored experience, ski in, ski out, exclusivity, one of a kind, of course, and market position in the top 1 to 5%. Now, if we go to the second tier, I'm not too sure what else to call it. You can let me know in the comments, please, instead of expensive. But these are the things that, for me, define it. So as we read down, location, prime, but not always exclusive, just a good location. Design and architecture, high-end materials, but potentially more of a standard design. I think that's fair. Amenities, high spec, but commonly available amenities, pool, gym. So that's kind of the limitations. And I think we kind of see that a little bit. The luxury just pushes that a little bit further in terms of what it has to offer to define luxury. Experience, comfortable and functional, but not curated as a full experience. Privacy and security, secure but may not be part of a community. So a good location, but not necessarily the most ultra high net worth location. Service level, minimal or owner managed services. Exclusivity. I'd say it's on the open market, but I'd say with the exclusivity, what's important is that there's a lot of comparisons. I think that's a really interesting point there, is that other than the apps, if we went through the tick box again, if you took any of the ticks off that are in the open market, there is a lot of properties that are comparable, which then takes away all the exclusivity and the rarity and the scarcity and all that stuff. So it doesn't become that ultra luxury property. It just becomes a good property again. Market position, as I said, maybe in the top 20%, but not necessarily rare or unique or pushing the boundaries forward. So this is kind of, let's go to the beginning. This is kind of what for me defines the luxury real estate. But it is quite hard to find. Now, what I was thinking of today is that even for buyers that are looking to find the luxury real estate, it's quite hard to find it. Usually it's done by word of mouth rather than mass marketing. The mass marketing is obviously for the level that's slightly under the real luxury because it's mass marketed. So it's not exclusive and it's not rare. So if you are considering looking for a genuine luxury piece of real estate, please give me a call or message me on email at mark@snowonly.com, or you can go to snowonly.com and contact me that way, or reply to any of the places that this is on social media. But I'm very familiar with the luxury real estate sector. So if you tell me it is what you're looking for, that maybe meets all of this criteria, or has to take some of the tick box off, we can kind of find what you're looking for. But today we are defining what luxury real estate is. And for me, as we go through, luxury real estate is ultimate location, ultimate lifestyle, ultimate quality, a rare product, privacy and exclusivity, in the top end of the prices, and ultimately the best service, ideally with a brand. Thank you for listening, everyone. Hopefully I'll come back with some others. If you found this useful, please let me know, and please feel free to mention any comments below. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.